Hi YouTubers, I'm glad you're all here. Thank you very much for joining me today. Today is October 28th, 2022, and it's Friday. Wars and rumors of war, more saber rattling going on. North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles off its east coast today, Friday. This reminds me of what China is doing. They're putting missile launchers in rail cars so they're harder to track. The 2 missile launches are at a time when the world is worried that North Korea is preparing its first nuclear test since 2017. The latest missile launches were fired from the Tongcheong area in the North Gangwon province, just after 4 days where the North and South exchanged missiles. What the news agency says is warning or was warning shots. The South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff, JSC, said our military is maintaining its full readiness posture, adding that it is stepping up monitoring and security while coordinating closely with the United States. South Korean troops were scheduled to finish the 12 days of Hongku 22 field exercises, which included some drills with U.S. troops. About 240 South Korean and U.S. warplanes are due to begin the Vigilant Storm drills on Monday, flying 1,600 sorties in the largest number of missions ever staged for such an exercise. North Korea said its recent missile launches were in protest against the joint exercise, which it says are the provocative and rehearsal for an invasion. The United States and its allies believe that North Korea could be about to resume nuclear bomb testing, the first time since 2017. Over the past few months, many Western analysts have been deeply concerned about the possibility that President Vladimir Putin might deploy a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine. The mainstream media has really been hush-hush. I believe they've been told to keep hush-hush. They don't want to create a panic. People rushing out to the stores and stocking up in case of nuclear war. Not only that, but to mention the elections that are coming up soon. Remember, the Ukrainian president and all his allies were saying that Russia was not going to invade Ukraine, telling the people of Ukraine not to stock up. And with the latest rhetoric about a dirty bomb or biological weapons, yeah, they're trying to disapprove, saying it's all rhetoric once again. I don't think I'm going to believe them. In the past year, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has tested a submarine-launched ballistic missile, a train-mounted ballistic missile, a new surface-to-air defense missile system, a long-range strategic cruise missile, and multiple hypersonic missiles. And now there are indications that North Korea is preparing its 7th nuclear test. The fact that North Korea has had nuclear weapons for so long, its first nuclear test was in 2006. The North now can credibly threaten the continental United States with nuclear weapons, but the threat goes beyond the U.S. domestic security. North Korea's development of weapons of mass destruction, WMD, could spark an arms race in Southeast Asia. South Korea evidently is thinking about going nuclear. North Korea crossed 2 thresholds in the development of thermal nuclear weapons and flight testing of intercontinental ballistic missiles. It now seems to be focusing on tactical nuclear weapons intended for use on targets on or near the peninsula, which could include ports, airfields, command and control facilities, and missile defense installations belonging to both South Korea and the U.S. forces. In April of this year, North Korea tested 8 nuclear-capable missiles with different ranges from 5 different launch sites. Similar tests were followed in September and October this month to simulate showering South Korea with tactical nuclear weapons. As Kim has been expanding his WMD arsenal, he's also been threatening to launch a preemptive attack. He made it public he is reserving the right to mount a first strike. On September 9th, at a meeting of North Korea's rubber-stamped parliament, Kim announced 5 conditions under which North Korea would launch a preemptive nuclear strike. The conditions are not only when a nuclear attack against North Korea is imminent, but also when a non-nuclear strike on the country's leadership or National Nuclear Force Command Body has been carried out, when a military attack on an important state target has occurred, or when the regime deems that not only nuclear weapons can prevent the expansion of a conventional war. Kim also introduced legislation to enshrine North Korea's nuclear status and asserted that he will never again engage in talks about denuclearization. North Korea's buildup is occurring in an international climate that is favorable for North Korea. Washington's animosity with both China and Russia means that those countries are less likely than ever to cooperate with the United States and its allies in strengthening sanctions on North Korea. On October 4th of this year, North Korea sent an intermediate range missile flying over Japan. The missile flew about 4,500 kilometers. That is 2,800 miles. Did you guys realize that? Farther than any other missile previously launched by North Korea before landing into the Pacific Ocean. Evidently, it was somewhere towards Guam. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described the move as a reckless act, but China and Russia both blocked the UN Security Council from condemning what they called an attack. U.S. Representative to the United Nations Linda Thomas Greenfield described how 2 permanent members of the Security Council have enabled Kim Jong-un to continue his recent rhetoric and development of weapons of mass destruction. Recent events with Russia and China have left the Biden administration not really focusing on what's going on with the North Korean threat. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, moreover, has underlined for the North the importance of having nuclear weapons. Kim Jong-un no doubt questions whether Putin would have launched his invasion if Ukraine had not given up its nuclear weapons in 1994. Only weapons of mass destruction, it seems, can guarantee regime survival. South Korea has traditionally relied on the American nuclear deterrent to stay safe. When U.S. President Donald Trump was in office, he threatened removing U.S. troops from South Korea if Seoul did not dramatically increase the amount of money it paid to support them. They evidently are still worried that if Trump or another First American, as they're called, meaning they're a nationalist, they believe in protecting their countries. Putin is a nationalist too, meaning their country, their needs come first. Their economy, their food, their defense over any other country. So they are worried that if another American first candidate were to win the presidency in 2024 or beyond, they would lose the Americans' protection, especially with the United States' growing vulnerability to a North Korean nuclear attack. A good example is all these countries saying they're going to come to the defense of Taiwan if China invades Taiwan. Well, evidently, South Korea would not get involved. South Korea has been debating how their country can strengthen its deterrence. They may press Washington for the rotation of more nuclear-capable U.S. weapon systems, such as B-52s or F-35s, to their country. They could ask for the introduction of NATO-style sharing of nuclear weapons between the United States and South Korea for the redeployment of U.S. tactical nuclear weapons, which were pulled out of South Korea in 1991. And South Korea has been discussing a more radical option, namely South Korea itself could go nuclear. In a recent poll, 55% of the population supported this idea. The United States is unlikely to support any of these possibilities. South Korea policy responses aside from occasional rotation of nuclear-capable U.S. aircraft and ships to South Korea. The U.S. is also opposed to redeployment of U.S. tactical nuclear weapons to South Korea or the South Korean government developing its own nuclear weapons. They fear that if U.S. nuclear weapons were there in South Korea, they could be a target for a preemptive North Korean attack. Yeah, they would probably see that as a definite threat. Evidently, back in the 1970s, then President Park Chung-hee did do a clandestine nuclear program, but abandoned it, probably after they got caught, in exchange for security guarantees from the United States. Well, Ukraine had security guarantees from the United States and many other countries, and look what happened there. If South Korea were to legally obtain nuclear weapons, South Korea would need to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and then there would be the risk of sanctions against South Korea. It has been suggested that the United States introduce a nuclear sharing, which it does with its NATO allies. That involves stationing U.S. nuclear weapons on their territory to be delivered by aircraft and pilots from those countries in the event of a conflict. If a major war to break out, NATO's nuclear planning group would have to give explicit approval to deploy these weapons. The U.S. President and British Prime Minister would have to provide authorization as well. Only then would B-61 bombs be delivered by European aircraft. Evidently, too, the Chicago Council on Foreign Relations offered supposedly useful recommendations, including bringing South Korea, along with Japan and Australia, into an Asian nuclear planning group, which would foster greater understanding of U.S. nuclear policies. South Korea, they're talking about, also could be included in the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, the alliance that unites the United States with Australia, India, and Japan. Like I said, right now, the Biden administration is being distracted with Russia and China and the Ukrainian threat. Yeah, it's like another country going nuclear. Would South Korea go nuclear? As North Korea does more and more tests, and after seeing what's going on with Ukraine, they're getting more and more concerned about the reliance of the United States to protect them. So what are your thoughts? Please put those comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm also on Patreon if you wish to support my work. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.